Hello, 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 amigas, and welcome
Hi.
to Amiga Handle Your Shit podcast. I'm so excited to have here Annie Gonzalez. Amigas, wow, it took some time for us to get here, but I'm so happy that I have the honor of having her on Amiga Handle Your Shit podcast. And let me say this. Talk about handling your shit, because we had an issue with the computers and technology, and sometimes, you know what happens? We want to give up and be like, fuck this shit, we're done, no way, I'm out of here. But I'm so grateful that my girl here, she handled her shit in like making sure that she's gonna be here. Even though her time is limited, she still was on it. Thank you so much, Annie.
Yes, thank you.
So we're gonna go knee and deep because I know you got so many projects going on and you're on a tight schedule. I know that many amigas know everything about you because you're that famous. You're that famous, and I love that you've been playing these amazing roles from Shameless to Gentefied to Flamin Hot, and now you're going to be one of the most iconic people in our culture. You're going to be Jenny Rivera. So, you know what? You've done so much work in the Latin landscape, and I really wanted to figure out, okay, how is it that you decide on the roles that you want to play? Is there something about a particular character, or is it about just the movie itself? What is it?
I think for me, I like to be intentional with the things that I choose because I feel like that's how I'll be able to best represent something that resonates with me. And, you know, anything human isn't foreign to us. So, like, that's the whole point of being an actress. But just with the types of role models and people that I grew up with, I want to continue to like revere and honor them with the work that I'm able to do. A lot of it, though, I will say has been by divine order. Like, I feel like it hasn't necessarily been me at the forefront being like, this is how, you know, I think it's been in tandem with what feels right and authentic to my soul and what God keeps positioning in front of me. And it's really cool and beautiful and powerful that a lot of the roles that I've been so privileged and projects that I've been so privileged to be a part of are something that does help elevate the Latina female narratives.
Yes, it does. And I mean, I loved all the seasons for Gentefied, and let me tell you something. When I came across it, I was calling it Gentefied because, you know, I'm like gentrification and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then I was quickly corrected by my friend Terry Weinberg, and I'm like, what? How do you know? How do you know that it's called Gentefied? And then
She's I'm an executive producer on the project. That's how.
I know. Isn't that crazy? I've been working out with her for a long time, not really knowing about her. And then all of a sudden I hear these marvelous things and I'm like, wow. So obviously I had already a connection with Gentefied, with her.
Yeah.
And I started admiring my girlfriend here because I'm like, how did you select the people? How is it that you select these roles, and especially in the Latino community? And I'm like, you know, what she had to say was like, she's always been a striver, a person for civil rights, an activist, and that's how she does these movies. And so I'm like, okay, now that I have Annie here, I'm like, how did she decide to do Gentefied? And I know that you're from East LA and you've been seeing gentrification through all these new businesses moving into the communities. And so I'm wondering, what is your perspective on that? What's your take?
On gentrification?
Yes.
Jesus, man, I feel like that's a longer conversation that can't be. I don't know if I have a take on it. I think gentrification, similar to colonization, similar to a lot of these things, is so much more complex than we make it seem. You know, we want to say that this one thing is bad, what you have over here in East LA, which sucks, is we're an underfunded community, and when you're underfunded and you come from disenfranchisement, you're most likely have lower education levels here, right? So we don't have the wherewithal and the knowledge of understanding, how do we create businesses? There's not a lot of financial literacy classes, right? So even the information that is out there for us to learn and figure out how to own, and most of the people out here are living paycheck to paycheck, trying to figure out how to get their families fed. They're not worrying about what's on legislation, how redlining works. It's so systematic that, we want to point to a person saying you're the problem, but it is the foundation of what our country was built on wasn't here to benefit people that look like you and me.
Yeah.
And even you and me, we have privilege. You have Eurocentric beauty standards, as do I. I'm an educated young woman. Like, I didn't grow up with the idea that I couldn't do something because I was a woman and because I was brown. So I walk into spaces with entitlement. Like, once we start acknowledging all of these things, like, then we can really get to the root of it and help community understand their power collectively and then do something about it. But it takes extra brain power, but it's so much more complex and complicated than saying something is like wrong or bad or what, because eventually, like, I still live here in East LA, and when I buy property, if I buy property here, I'd be considered a gentrifier. Because I went out, I outsourced my money, and I'm coming back and I'm buying property. That's just, it's one of those things, like, is it bad? Is it wrong? Is it the inevitable? How do we empower community? At least it's me, right? You want to say, well, at least it's me buying, other than some like yuppie young Silver Lake heads or people who got their tech bro. Like, it's a constant conversation that I think us in our lifetime or in the span of humanity will ever get to the root of, because we're constantly discovering and rediscovering, and we live in a capitalist America, that there's never going to be an end to this conversation. And instead of vilifying the people, whoever it is, we have to attack the problem and the system. And that's an even bigger conversation. We're in an election year. Y'all go vote. I know, so sorry. You get this. I could talk about, so you can tell.
Yeah, no, I know. I get it, girl. I really do. As a lawyer, I basically put on I did like raised my white flag. I'm done. I can't anymore. It's just way too much. It's just way too much.
And we also just have to start really being so honest about what is in front of us. I think a lot of the time we're afraid to hurt people's feelings, especially like the boomer generation and different, like, we don't want to offend. And maybe we do need to start offending so that we can then get to the root of things. Your way worked for as long as your way worked, but y'all bought houses when they were like for a pack of berries and $100 in your pocket. It don't work that way now, little mama,
Yeah, no, I know. I think the Gen Z community has a really hard time. I mean, I see and hear statistics about them not wanting to leave their home because they can't afford to live on their own, and which is crazy, because I'm like, how is that possible? But I'm 50 years old, and I've seen the trajectory of society and where it's gone and where it's going, and I'm like, poor gente. And I cannot even imagine in migrant communities, or even in communities that are not affluent, like, it's probably worse. It's worse. And with that in mind, I feel like what you're doing is highlighting what the problems are and coming to solutions about it. And I feel like this beautiful conversation that we're having here about gentrification, about colonization, about this election coming up, and that we get to vote. If we're American citizens, we better exercise our right to vote, because we need to make these changes for our future generations, because literally what I lived out definitely is not what's being lived out right now.
At all.
I have a daughter who's 11 years old, and I'm like, she'll be fine. I know she will be fine. But at the same time, I'm like, well,
but
she'll
will
be
she?
fine.
But will she? That's the real truth.
Yeah.
I mean, if
Thank
she's
you for that.
If she's under your thumb, maybe. But if people like you, myself, and other younger people 18 and over who are of Black and brown communities are not voting, the other people are always going to vote in their favor.
Right.
If you are of affluence, if you are of wealth, you are always going to vote in your favor because we live in a capitalist society. Mm-hmm. It is very much every man for themselves, right? And that can be a good thing if you're looking to build your own financial wealth and an empire. Great, good for you. But we are not of community anymore. It's most people are not. I mean, even myself, I sometimes have to remember, like, no, what am I doing this for? If I have trillions of dollars and it's just for me in my pocket, what fun is that? I want to build generational wealth. I want to help teach my siblings how important their voice is, so that not so that they can follow my lead, like, meaning you agree with what I have to say. No, I encourage healthy discourse. Let's challenge each other. This is what I've learned up until this point, but I'm sure now with with that generation, you have way more information and access to things that I never had growing up. Same with my mom, constantly being like, hey, I get it, you tried your best, and guess what? It still wasn't enough, and I'm not mad at you. But I have to acknowledge said situation so that we can move forward in an honest, authentic way instead of placating to each other that something worked when it didn't.
Right. Yes, amiga. And not only in finances, but then also let's talk about the issues that happen time and time again with domestic violence. And that's another layer to the equation.
It's all to the equation. It's all in the same thing. Mm-hmm. You don't have information, education, you don't have finances. What do we revert back to? Blunt brute force. I work with an organization called Justice for Migrant Women who because of a good friend of mine, Monica Ramirez, who is also a lawyer, a civil rights activist lawyer, and she works closely with like domestic and sexual violence. And we just did a conference, a summit at the UN called Convention 190. And I think my whole ethos is the only way we are going to change this system is not by asking the people higher up who are not affected by the system, but the people who are in the world of work, who understand what is wrong, what is right, and how we shift. And so within Convention 190, it gives a new language to sexual violence, domestic violence, and harassment in the world of work. So you have HR who does the workplace, right? Mm-hmm. But when you look at the world of work, which is now kind of how our economy and the world is changing, like right now, we're on a Zoom working. I'm in my house, you're in yours. Say something happens where there is an offense that has happened. How do we classify that work? We're not in a place of work. But we write these off as tax write-offs. So within the language of the world of work, should something come awry, we can either on either end, whoever, or I'm just using this as an example, can report this, and it will be legally held accountable in a state so that we can end up ratifying a lot of the violence that has happened, even unto it starting in the home, right? How you show up at work is directly affected with everything else that goes on at home. If you're affected by domestic violence, that can help get ratified as well. So,
oh my God, girl! I'm like, damn! I wish we had more time. Going in line with domestic violence, and I know that you're going to your work. I don't know if you're done or you will soon be done, but talking about Jenny Rivera, and I know that she had a very troublesome short life when it came to abuse, and so I'm wondering, why did you take that role, and is it because you yourself experienced domestic violence, or you saw that growing up?
Nobody's childhood is easy, mine included. There was a lot of any amount of sexual violence and or domestic violence is too much and is a lot. And there were things that I experienced as a kid that nobody should have had to experience, and I think I had said no to the role initially twice, And I think I did because it was something that I was like, am I ready to face, and am I ready to talk about it, because I know that these questions would come up. And the casting director, who's a really good friend of mine, Alan Luna, or I think he was the associate on it, but he had reached out to me personally, and usually you go through the proper channels, your agents, and he had reached out like, is there a reason why you're not reading? And I remember being like, oh shit, like this is fuck, okay, well, I thought about it, and I'm like, okay, maybe this, I personally feel like every body of work is here to come help heal some part of us, definitely some part of me. That's how I choose to approach my work. And when this came to, I was like, all right, there's a larger message here, especially within the Latina community, how we're perceived on screen, and then how we perceive ourselves. I think there's a lot there to be said, that we very rarely get to be the full embodiment of something in our community, right? Like, you've heard that term, ni santa ni puta, solo mujer, but like
girl.
But the truth is, I am a saint, sometimes I'm a whore, and guess what? I'm everything in between. And I don't think that we get the full freedom to express that within our culture. Again, let's get deep with it, right? I think a lot of it has to do with the colonization, with us being forced into Christianity, and these very oppressive by nature, and then there's also a lot of beauty that comes with these things as well. It's the dichotomy of everything.
Yes, the polarity of it all.
Polarity of it all. And what I loved about Jenny is she reminded me of myself. She reminded me of my mom. I think we all know what that is like, to love something so much because you think that contributes to your own self-worth and love, that you will put up with mierda and abuse because that's the guise of what love is.
Yeah.
She's human, regardless of the millions of dollars and people screaming out her name, that's what I loved about her the most. She's one of those few artists that was like, that would go up there and pour her heart. That's why she resonated with so many. And she was so innovative for Latinas, for corridos and music of that nature, that like women didn't have a space there. And she was like, fuck you. I like to sing. I like to dance. I love hard. I'm a lover girl. I fuck. I fight. And I fight hard. Yeah. Like, hell yeah.
She was a chingona.
Definitely. For sure.
A major trailblazer, and it's so sad that she had to pass away, and in what manner, which is crazy. But I always feel like there's always a journey for all of us, and we're all going to end at some point in time. But she did such an amazing job while she was here on Earth. Yeah, and I bet your role as Jenny is going to be amazing too. So when are we going to be able to see you in action?
When I'll probably know.
I love it. Are there any other projects you're going to be working on that we should stay on alert?
I'm working on a couple right now. Since working on Jenny, which I had the privilege of being executive producer on, and the Mucho Mas team and Gigi were very receptive to how I wanted to be involved. They let me be a part of a lot of the process, and it was a very big learning curve. So now I have found, if I want to start making more stories that resonate with me and the types of stories that I want to share, I have to start producing. So I have a couple projects that I am producing right now that you guys are just gonna have to keep on the lookout for. The first and foremost that the information is already out about it is called Rough Magic, and it is a theatrical debut that's gonna be premiering the second week of July in Boston at the Arts Emerson College. We're already sold out, so sorry guys if you wanted to get tickets. It's already sold out. Literally, we went up last week on Monday and we were completely sold out for the run. But manifesting here and now, we're probably going to be somewhere in New York at the 2024-2025 season.
Oh, wonderful. Congratulations on that.
Thank
And
you.
I know there's going to be so much more, and I know that your time is very limited here. But
No worries.
Oh,
we
no
got a little
worries.
more
Okay.
time, yeah.
Oh, okay, okay, because I was like, I better rush this. Well, amiga, okay, so, you know, I love what you're doing, and I love the message that you're sending to our community and about keeping and promoting legacy. And so, what kinds of things do you want to see in the future in terms of legacy building? Are you going to produce some maybe something that is not really about the community per se, but something that approaches legacy?
That's always my goal. To me, community isn't just my skin tone, my language and ethnicity. Community is all the people that have ever told me they loved me. You know, I think that's what I'm looking to build towards for myself. I think it's beautiful that we have projects that are titled Latina, Latinx, Latin projects, but I'm so excited for us to stop having these conversations and be a part of the whole. I think that's how we actually make the culture shifting things. When, like, I grew up identifying with Barbara Streisand and Bette Midler, not knowing and not caring if they were Latino. I just was like, that's me right there. So as far as legacy, what I want to see just out in the world, I want to see people have joy. Joy that, it makes me want to cry. Joy that just gives them hope for more peace. Things and joy that's not rooted in material things, but things that can only come from God, that knowing that you are safe, taken care of, and loved. I think that's how we create change, but we have to keep, in order to see that, we have to become it. That's my goal and purpose always. I know I speak with a lot of like conviction and fight, but the only way that I'm able to have this is because I have so much joy in my life that I can't even quantify. And I hope that everybody around me gets the opportunity to feel the love that I feel every day.
I love that. I receive that. You know, I always felt my true essence has always been in feminine flow and hearing my divine calling and my gifts and my talents. And so working as a lawyer was very masculine. It was always fighting. And it got so bad that it exhausted my body and I became ill. And I feel that if we work through our femininity, our flow, our ease and grace, because it comes from the heart, so much magic can happen on this planet. So much magic. And I'm glad that's where you're at and what you want to see and portray that onto this planet. Thank you so much for that courage and showing that it can be done. We don't have to always be fighting. It's like exhausting. Very exhausting to always be fighting. I wish you all the best, amiga, and I love if you could share with us 1 or 2 tips on how an amiga can handle her shit.
Slow down. You want to handle your shit, rest. Think we're always being pushed to do, to be. But in order to be, you have to be still. You want to hurry up and get somewhere? Slow down. We've all done that thing. We're rushing out of the house and we hit our leg and we hit our foot on the thing, and then we have to run back in because we forgot our phone and then our wallet and all the things. It will all be there.
Yes.
You don't have to rush towards your dreams, because then you get there and you don't even get to enjoy it. Enjoy the process. Enjoy the mistakes, because that's where you really learn and that's where the real fun comes from. Because once you hit the top of one mountain is the bottom of another. So if you can enjoy each step. I was on a hike recently in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where the elevation already is, I think it's like, I don't know, it's damn near close to where Mexico City's is. Really high elevation, right?
Right.
So I'm hiking, and the top of the elevation of this mountain that I'm summiting is 9,000 feet above sea level. So we're already, I think at that point, you're already like 1,000 feet, maybe a little more. I don't really know. Can't tell you, but still. So I'm walking up, and I'm pretty athletic. I'm usually can hike. I'm not even a quarter of the way up, and I am huffing and puffing. I am getting lightheaded. Yo de pendeja, I forgot my freaking water bottle, so that was another thing. Don't do that. But as I'm up there, I'm breathing, and I'm like, in my human brain is, I gotta get to the top. I gotta get to the top. And I was like, no. And I stopped myself. I go, no, Annie. Trust the process.
Yes.
Enjoy the moment. Maybe God is showing you little signs of life and things that you have been missing, thinking that you need to reach some proverbial destination, when the destination is always and only the feeling. And that feeling cannot be quantified by some new shoes, or by some AirPods, or by the latest quién sabe qué. Because when it's in a material thing, it lasts for a material moment. But when it's something that is rooted in consciousness, in joy, in purpose, in God, no one can take that from you. So slow down and feel those moments.
Amen, sister. Thank you so much for that. I feel that we need to hear that more often. And you know how they say, slow and steady wins the race?
That's real.
Yeah, that's real. Well, amiga, thank you so much for being here on Amiga Handle Your Shit podcast. And yes, we had a complication, but mira, no pasa nada. We got it done. Thank you, amiga, so much. And I wish you all the best. And I'm going to be stalking you. In a good way, not in the other way.
I love it.